Committee on Parole is called back to order at 12:01. Our next case is a revocation. It's Mr. Edwin Shlumbrecht. Is that the correct pronunciation of your name, sir?
Yes, sir.
Sir, would you give us your full name and DOC number?
Edmund Robert Shlumbrecht, 474-626.
Thank you, Mr. Shlumbrecht. This is a set today for a revocation hearing. You are represented by Mr. Michael Chiasio. Mr. Chiasio, if you will make an appearance, please.
Good afternoon, Michael Chiasio, and evidently I was sitting in the wrong Zoom waiting room, but they sent me an ID, so I apologize. I just got the new ID to sign in with you guys.
Well,
So.
good. We weren't waiting on you, so you might have had to wait, but we're good. So thank you.
Good. I'm glad. All good. And I believe that Mr. Schlumbrecht's aunt and uncle, Darlene Newport, I know that they had signed in this morning, and I hope that they got the new ID as well. I know Mr. Lewis did reach out.
I think we've got them. I think they're good.
Great.
Mr. Shlumbrecht, let me explain our process to you. We're first going to cover your parole revocation questionnaire. Do you have that with you?
Yes,
We'll
sir.
cover that in just a moment. Then I'll go over the allegations and how it's alleged you violated your parole. Then at that point, you'll plead either guilty, not guilty, guilty with the statement, or not guilty with the statement. And then we'll have a full discussion of what about the allegations. You do have two people here speaking on your behalf. Your uncle, Mr. Charles Newport, is here, and Ms. Darlene Newport, your aunt, is here to speak on your behalf. Do you understand our procedure?
Yes, sir.
Do you have your questionnaire before you?
Yes, sir.
At the bottom of the questionnaire, there's a signature that perhaps is yours, I can't tell, on September the 16th of 2022. Is that your signature at the bottom?
Yes, sir.
Are all the answers to those questions accurate and correct?
Yes, sir.
And you have retained counsel to move forward today?
Yes, sir.
You prepared to go forward?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to read to you the rule violations, and I'm going to ask you to plead either guilty, not guilty, guilty with the statement, or not guilty with the statement. The first one is Rule 4. On April the 27th of 2022, you were arrested for domestic abuse, child endangerment. On August the 8th of 2022, the Jefferson Parish District Attorney's Office refused the charge. How do you plead to the allegation?
Not guilty.
And finally, number 10, you are $1,626 in arrears with regards to supervision fees. How do you plead to that?
Guilty.
Your case has been assigned to Mr. Freeman. Would you please answer Mr. Freeman's question? Mr. Freeman?
Okay, Mr. Shlumbrecht, how long have you been in jail on these charges?
Almost 6 months.
Okay. What's your educational level?
Some college.
Okay. Just tell me what events did occur on that date. I mean, what happened? I know y'all argued.
We just got into an argument.
Okay, and what all happened?
The police was called and they came out. I was already outside. I was trying to leave. And that's about it.
Were you drunk or on drugs that day?
No, sir.
Because the arresting officers thought that you might have been under the influence.
I don't drink. I've been on parole for 4 years. Why would I drink? I don't drink and do drugs.
And this isn't the first time y'all had a little conflict. Y'all argue a good bit?
No, it's not. It's not. I'm not a violent person, man. And we just get in arguments about things around the house, just everyday family problems. I leave the house, you know. She drinks. I don't drink. Alcohol does that, but I always leave. And I don't guess I left fast enough that night. You know, I never hurt anyone in my family, nor would I ever hurt anybody in my family. I miss my family.
Were you holding the baby while y'all were arguing this time?
I was, and she took him from me, and I gave her the baby. Like when she went to take him from me, I gave her the baby and I left. I walked outside and the cop was there.
Okay. Were you working at the time of this arrest?
I work. I'm a business owner.
What are you on? What business?
Eddie's Home Renovations and Handyman Service, LLC.
You make pretty good money doing that?
Yes, sir.
Why weren't you paying your supervision fees?
I don't know. We had the new baby, and I've been the only one working, supporting the family. We got 2 kids. We got bills, and I could pay the fees. I will gladly pay the fees.
Well, you know, I mean, the fees are important. It is an obligation, but the domestic abuse is what we're really concerned about today. You know, it's a big problem in our nation. So all of the charges were dropped, correct?
Yes, sir. It was refused.
If you and Mr. Menendez worked out y'all situation, she stated in the report that you thought she was cheating on you.
Yes, sir.
Is that true? You did think she was cheating on you?
I knew something was going on. That wasn't what it was. She's hiding alcohol.
Okay.
She has been getting help with that too. You know, and we talk every day on the phone and we're fine. I miss my family very much, man.
Well, I understand that. We just want to make sure it's safe for you to go back with your family. And that's what we're trying to get to today. I read the letter that she wrote and that she sent. There was definitely a conflict on that date. It may have not been physical, but y'all definitely were involved in a conflict. Mr. Ciascio, do you have anything to say? What any recommendations?
Well, thank you for the opportunity. And I know his aunt who knows him very well. Edmund is a very talented trim carpenter. In fact, his aunt, who of course has known him her whole life, works for a company that supplies high-end woods for trim carpenters. And you know, I haven't had the opportunity to visit with Edmund much about it, but I mean, she raves about his abilities, his talent, and that. So I would just say a few things to the board. Is one, as you know, I mean, I understand the seriousness of allegations of domestic abuse, and I understand the board wanting to inquire, to do a more in-depth inquiry about it. What I would say also is this is as of the 3rd of October, my 30th year practicing law. My first 6 years spent putting people behind bars as a prosecutor, both in New Orleans and in Jefferson Parish, and my last 24 representing people like Edmund. And I think one of the things that I think is telling in this case is, as you know, the Jefferson Parish District Attorney's Office, just like the parole board, takes issues of domestic abuse very seriously. And, you know, they've taken a look at this case, and, you know, they don't, and I will say that they don't just refuse cases for the sake of refusing it if someone walks in and says they just want to refuse the charges. So I think the board is aware of that, but I think that I wanted to bring that to the board's attention. The second thing I will say is and Mr. Freeman, your questions are very good, are well put, because no one has an interest in putting Edmund back in a situation where he's going to be back in front of you guys again. And I think his family, particularly his aunt, and him have to have some good discussions as to what the plan is, hopefully, if the board chooses for him to be released on parole again, because I think that clearly there's a situation that between him and the mother of his children, that they have to recognize that what has transpired as a status quo is just, there needs to be some changes, because it just puts everybody in a situation where where you have the possibility of coming in front of you guys again, or have the possibility of law enforcement coming out to the house. I would note for the record that I don't believe anybody was injured in connection with this incident. I would note for the record, I did have the opportunity at the probable cause hearing with the parole officers for the mother of the child to call in and to speak on the phone without my ever having spoken to her, and voicing to the members. There was two members of the probation and parole department, Mr. Stevens, who's a supervisor, and I apologize, I know her face and I can't remember her name, who conducted the hearing, but she very clearly expressed that she does not fear Edmund, and she does not, that she's not in fear of his getting back. And she very clearly stated that she really wishes for him to come back, and that as a father, that he has been a good father to both his child and her child. With that, I will note for the record, it's just saying, and I know you guys, I signed in at 8:15, so I know I'm trying to be very cognizant of the time that you guys volunteer and that y'all have today. But I will note for the record that he has been in jail essentially for a longer period of time than he would have served had he been convicted of the underlying offense. I would just ask the board, I would say this, I think if you heard from his aunt, there's support in place and people who are willing to support him and to work with him and to work with her to make sure that they need to both take the steps that they need to take to make sure that that any incident doesn't happen. And I believe that with respect to the $1,600 in fees, I think Mr. Freeman, it's a great question, and he needs to pay his fees. I think he's a talented person, and he can make the money to pay the fees. With that, I would just respectfully request to you members to allow him to be out, to be with his family, and to work, and and to prove that he can successfly complete his parole. I will also, last thing, I will note for the record that Mr. Shlumbrecht was, I think, within 1 month of not being under the jurisdiction of the board. So for all those reasons, I respectfully request that that the board not revoke his parole at this point in time.
Thank you, Mr. Stiasio.
No, sir.
We'll hear now from Mr. Newport, Mr. Charles Newport.
Hi, this is Darlene Newport. My husband is here, and to save time, we were pretty much going to say the same thing. So I'm
okay. Why don't you speak first?
Okay. Eddie is like a son to us. He came from an alcoholic father, and his mother was not the best. And he lived with us when he was about 7 for a couple years, and then they took him back. After that, you know, we have 2 other children. He is like a son to us. The 2 other children consider him to be their brother. So he has a very strong support staff when he gets out. When he went to prison, he needed to go to prison. He definitely needed to go to prison. But when he came out, he was a changed person. He opened his own company. He got it licensed. He went through all of that. He's an excellent craftsman, like Mr. Tiatio said, and he totally renovated. Him and his family were living in a 1-bedroom tiny apartment. He got an opportunity to renovate a 3-bedroom house in a nice neighborhood. It came out beautiful, and then he was working towards, he was going to be able to purchase the home for them to live in. His wife wasn't working yet, but they had the 2 kids, and he managed to make enough money to get the 2 vehicles and get them both working and have enough money. And his family is suffering terribly without him. She is on the verge of getting evicted because she cannot afford, with what she makes, to run a household. She can't even find an apartment she can afford. But he will come out and be an asset to society. After the hurricane, he helped people get back in their houses that had no insurance and didn't charge them. He made enough money. He should have paid those fees. I was unaware that there were fees that he wasn't paying. If he gets out, I will certainly see that him and Bianca get the counseling they need should they decide to stay together. I will insist on that. And I think he needs to be let out, because putting him back in jail is going to hurt his family, and it's going to serve no purpose.
Thank you very much, Ms. Newport. We appreciate your comments. Mr. Shlumbrecht, is there anything you'd like to say before the board votes?
No, sir.
Board ready to vote?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Freeman?
Okay, Mr. Shlumbrecht, you know, anytime, like he stated, when we see domestic abuse, it really kind of sets off a little alarm. You know, and I do think you and your wife definitely need counseling. I'm gonna add a condition that you go to counseling. I can't make her go, but I suggest that she go with you. My vote today is gonna be to do not revoke, and give you a reprimand, and to waive your fees, because I know y'all gonna have a lot of catching up to be. Waive your fees to this point. And then, once you get back on your feet, you're supposed to, you need to pay those fees. That's gonna be my vote today.
Ms. Renatza?
All right, Mr. Shlumbrecht, I agree. My vote is do not revoke, return you to supervision. We'll issue a reprimand and waive the arrearages, and with the added special condition, you enroll in. We hope she goes with you.
Thank you.
Mr. Shlumbrecht, you have 2 votes to do not revoke, waive your fees, and for you to submit to counseling as a condition, additional condition. I agree with my colleagues. Our vote today is not to revoke you, with the conditions that you enroll in counseling. Hopefully, your wife will go with you. Your aunt sounds like she has got a good handle on things, and maybe she can help convince your wife to make that's a good idea to go. So you've got good support, so good luck to you, sir.
Thank you.
I believe we are finished at Orleans Parish, and we'll close out there at 12:20.
Well, and I want to say thank you. Believe it or not, in my 30 years of practice, this is I've been before the pardon board once in my very first year of private practice, and this is the first time before the parole board. So thank you for your service, and thank you for your time and your confidence in him.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so let's unpack that. It's interesting why in jail they have them cuffed for these hearings. They don't do that in prison. Okay, so Man, I just gotta say that he was 1 month away from finishing up his being under parole jurisdiction when he got into this mess, and that sucks. If you can't look at that calendar and say, I just have 1 month left, let me just stay out of trouble for 1 month, and you can't do that, that is either you just have no self-control, or like the police report said, maybe he was not sober, but he paid for it. He's, as his attorney said, been in jail waiting for this hearing longer than he would have been there if he had just served his time. You don't want to mess up when you're on parole, and it is a red flag. Like you said, domestic abuse, it's scary. It's unfortunate. And look at all the pain and suffering he's caused his family because of that. But I can't say that the outcome is not good. Punishing him more and his family is not going to do anyone any good. Like his attorney said, I was surprised that they waived the fees, and I think that means the fees are waived, period, like just wiped off. Like you don't owe it, and then you have to start paying. And I'm for that. Like, give the guy the best shot at making sure his family has a roof on their heads and they have food. And I think that's what the judge was thinking about. Like, this is not about creating havoc and suffering and mayhem. Try to keep him out, and that would be a big relief. That has got to be a huge relief for him. And his aunt and uncle look like they will hopefully have a good influence and help out. And anyways, I'm for it. Really do hope that she attends a therapy with them. That can be. So I don't know. I'm a big advocate of couples therapy, no matter where you are in your relationship. I think it's really important. But anyways, with that, I'll let you go.